Joe, the expectation was that perhaps, and the expectation last week was that perhaps the Taliban might take 90 days or so to seize the capital of Kabul. Well, in the end, it was done in less than a week. Militarily, the Taliban has been quite successful here, haven't they, and done quite a job.
Yeah, they've done very well, Pete. Good morning. The Taliban sweet-talked themselves into Kabul, and it turned out that the good soldiers of Afghanistan didn't want to die for a corrupt government, and the president took off to places unknown. But keep in mind that the Taliban lied here a little bit. They agreed at Doha, the diplomatic round, not to forcibly take over Afghanistan. And that's exactly what they did. So you can count on them to lie about everything. They said there wasn't going to be any revenge, and there would be amnesty, and that women will be okay, education will be okay, and all the NGOs can stay there, etc. Now, look, I was watching raw feeds for about 8 hours last night, trying to get all these different angles, and I was struck. I was looking for something between the American Dunkirk and the fall of Saigon, both of which I remember pretty well, at least one historically and one in real time. And what I saw, Pete, maybe you might agree with me here, is that this was the Iranian Revolution. I mean, the population just rolled over, the government disappeared.
Yeah, it's stunning. Yeah, I got to agree with you there, Joe. The stunning, the images, the imagery of the chopper leaving the embassy. It's Vietnam. It's Saigon all over again.
That's exactly right. And it's exactly right. And, this has really worldwide implications. This is going to be the lodestone or the North Star for proponents of Sharia law throughout the world. And you can bet the Chinese are going to be in there tomorrow with the Belt and Road because no one else is going to give this regime any money. The Russians are going to stay around. Pakistanis are going to stay around because they've been bankrolling these people. The Iranians don't like these people very much because they are Sunni, the others are Shia, and they've done a number of atrocities against Iranians.
Does this become a breeding ground for terrorism now, Joe?
Oh, look, there's no doubt. I've been saying for years, Pete, that the war on terror is the war of our generation. And what it got yesterday was a rebirth. We got the rebirth of the war on terror because every crazy person, every Islamist extremist is going to be hanging out in that place. There'll be 10,000 foreign fighters there. And you're going to see ISIS regroup. In fact, those 5,000 prisoners they released at Bagram were ISIS and Al-Qaeda. So, the gang is going to reassemble again, and they're going to go off in different directions. I mean, the Russians have to be careful. They got their own Muslim populations, and so do the Chinese.
So was it all a waste, Joe? I mean, sorry to interrupt you. I've just got a short amount of time, and I've got 1,000 questions to ask you. But was it all a waste, looking back? I mean, the whole point was to move the Taliban from Afghanistan, right? And look what's happened.
Well, yeah, and by any standard, it was a waste of time. It was a waste of about $2.3 trillion, $80 billion for the armed forces that didn't fight. It was a terrible tragedy that's going to befall the women who are judges there and educators and single mothers, et cetera. In that sense, it's an enormous waste. And there is a nice Irish gal once told me, Pete, that Guinness doesn't travel. So I like to say that American democracy doesn't really travel to certain places. And I don't think it had good roots there.
Well, I mean, and I'll just close on this one, Joe. I mean, America has not been very successful militarily since World War II, right? Perhaps with the exception of the Gulf War. So what does this mean for any kind of military intervention moving forward when the US is involved? It can't count on a victory.
Well, America is no good at winning insurgencies. In fact, very few people are very good at winning insurgencies. It's very hard to insert yourself into a civil war and expect too many positive outcomes. It's going to give the American military-industrial complex pause. It's going to give Biden an indelible reputation for having blown the end of this thing, and no one's looking pretty good here. And look, I like to say that it's the intelligence community. There are 17, 18 of them that get about $85 billion a year to tell us and to read the tea leaves, Pete, and they got this one very, very wrong. They get a lot of things wrong. So we're going to have to figure out how to get a little more intel, and we're going to have to figure out whether we want to hang out in the Middle East or make that famous pivot to the Pacific, which they haven't done yet.
Yeah, right.
So this is going to delay things. But it's really an exciting time. If you are a terrorist or an Islamic extremist, I'll tell you what, you are having a red letter day.
Wow. Joe Siracusa, good to chat as always.
Okay.
Talk to you again soon.